Hello everyone, it is Monday the 15th of August 2022. My name is Sarah and you are very welcome here to my channel Sew Me Sarah. I apologise for the wobbles of the camera. I'm going to try really hard not to shake the desk. I am filming in a different spot than usual. As you know, those of you who've been around for a little while, you know that my house is currently very full, fit to bursting, to be honest. And so I have retired upstairs into the bedroom in the hope that this is a little bit less of a thoroughfare and I might actually have a chance of getting a recording from beginning to end-ish. So, I don't have any teacups behind me tonight and I'm missing them myself, I have to say. It's very boring looking there, so I'm going to have to show you some stitching in a few moments to at least take away the boredom of the wardrobes that are behind me. I am sorry, I am shaking again. So, new setup, not a sturdy table. This is currently my husband's office setup. It's right at the bottom of my bed, so my bed is right in front of me. And this is where we've moved his office while Andrew sleeps in his office next door because Andrew's room has been given to our guests. So yeah, all of the jiggling about, you're now in a new position. So yes, all of the jiggling about means that I am recording from unusual space today. So I will do my best to keep the wobbly table down to a minimum so as not to give you all headaches. So since last time, I wanted to say thank you so much for your reception of the Q&A video. I have to say that I found it difficult to make my answers sound interesting. I'm not really big on talking about myself a lot. I love talking about my stitching, but talking about myself is another matter. But thank you all for the questions and thank you very much for your reception of those. I don't seem to have put too many of you off anyway, put it like that. So hopefully today I will have time at the end, after I've shown you my stitching, to answer the remaining questions, which were largely more sewing and planning or stitching and planning related. So that's what today's plan is. Also, since last time, we have been in the middle of a quite lengthy spell of a heat wave. Here, I mean, I do not remember the last time that we had temperatures of 25 Celsius plus for, 5, 6, 7 days in a row. So that has been really hot. So much so that my front grass is burnt, it's brown. That hasn't happened very often either. Today is a little bit cooler and more dull and I have actually appreciated that, but I have to say it's still very close. So I believe we're going to keep our temperatures for a little bit longer, but not just quite as high as 25 and 26, 27 degrees that we have had. I know that a lot of you are experiencing much, much hotter than us here, and I hope that you are managing to survive it if you are. I also have some lovely pictures to show you. So some of you asked for the Q&A if I would show you more of Northern Ireland, and since I was last here unrecorded, we had a little 2-night holiday in a caravan on the east coast of Northern Ireland, just below a little place called Kilkeel, which is a fishing village. And our friends lent us a caravan for a couple of nights. And we took Charlotte down there and stayed a couple of nights, just basically entertaining her, letting her have some time on the beach and going for walks and to the park. And then we went to a forest park. So I have some pictures that I am showing you now as I'm talking. So our caravan was lovely. Our friends were very gracious and let us borrow it for a few days. And as you can see, there was a lovely ocean view and the weather was great. So it was a real plus to have picked 2 days when the weather was good. First day we were there, it was really bright and sunny. The second day was warm but a bit more overcast. So you'll see in the photographs that one of the days looks more dull than the other, but both were actually really lovely days and very warm. So I loved seeing the sea. We had a little walk along the beach, and Charlotte watched some of the other families who were obviously caravanning and beach holiday pros, not like us at all. They were bodyboarding and just generally enjoying the water, but she just likes to watch. The water was freezing because it is the Irish Sea, so it's very cold, but it was beautiful. It was beautiful to watch, and I love to hear the sound of the waves crashing on the beach. It's quite a rocky shoreline as well, so you got that extra dimension of audio with the waves crashing on rock in certain areas too. So on our second day we went to a forest park, which is one of my very favourite places to go in Northern Ireland, and it's called Tullymore Forest Park. It is in the Mourne Mountains, and the Mourne Mountains, from the song by Percy French, the mountains of Mourne sweep down to the sea. Some of you may be familiar with that. So the Mourne Mountains are our biggest mountain range here in Northern Ireland. They're not huge, but you know, they're our biggest. And there is a big forest there called Tullymore. Now, much to my husband's disgust, it's not a natural forest. It is largely a planted and managed forest, but there are lovely walks, beautiful river, and you'll see in the photographs, I hope you'll see why I love it. So we took a walk along the river, and then we were able to take Charlotte across the stepping stones. There are a couple of points where you can cross the river on stepping stones, but we made it to the first point and took her across. That was a new experience for her, which she enjoyed. And then we walked down, back down the river along the other side and past some duck. There's a duck lake, and although there was significantly lacking in ducks on the day that we were there, and then back up to the car park and back home. So just getting Charlotte around that kind of small loop of the forest was a big feat, but I wanted to show you how beautiful it looks, and it is a very lovely place to spend the day, have a picnic, which we did, and be with your family. If you are in the area and ever get a chance to visit, I would heartily recommend it. So I hope you enjoyed seeing those pictures. Some of them are just also other pictures from our travels through the Mourne Mountains. I think there's a picture of a dam which is called Spelga Dam, which is very low at the moment because we've not had very much rain, which is very unusual for us here. And the UK in general is not having much rain this year. I think it's all gone to Australia. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed seeing a few of those pictures and can see why I love the Tullymore Forest so much. A little bit of admin just before I continue. I have redrawn the winner of La Trappistine. This was a share back on episode 28, I believe. I have given it several calls for the winner to contact me, but I haven't heard from her. So I redrew, and the winner is now Jan Hugo. So Jan, if you will contact me, use the email address in the drop down below, or contact me via direct message on Instagram and let me know your postal address. I will pop this in the post to you, and I am delighted that it will soon hopefully be on its way to someone who does want to stitch it. So thanks again to Terry for passing this chart on for me to share. So Jan, let me know where to send it to. And then I also have my 2 giveaway winners for the 3,000 subscriber giveaway, which was on the last video. I've forgotten to bring the charts up, so I will insert them here. One is for Kindness Matters, and the other one is for Thankful. And both of these are charts by Deb at Frog Cottage Designs. And Deb has agreed that she will send a PDF copy of these charts to my winners. So what you have to do if you are the winner is contact me again, either by direct message on Instagram or by the email address below, and let me know what email address you would like Deb to send your PDF to. So the winner of Kindness Matters is Youngblood Suze. So Suzette, I'm delighted that you are a winner finally, because you are a faithful viewer and commenter and are always building me up in your comments. So thank you so much. I'm delighted that you won, and you will get Kindness Matters from Deb. The winner of the Thankful chart is Noreen Kennedy. And Noreen is a real life friend of mine who stitches and is becoming just as obsessed with stitching as the rest of us are. So Noreen, I'm thrilled that you're going to get Deb's Thankful chart. If you want to just confirm with me which email address you would like Deb to send that to, get in touch. So that's really lovely to have. I love whoever wins any of the giveaways, but it's really lovely when you know that it's someone you know in real life, or when it's someone who has been regular and faithful and you've built up a commenting relationship with. So it's really nice when that happens. Just to say, on those two charts from Frog Cottage Design, we are right on the cusp of Expo, and I know that Deb is planning to exhibit at Expo. So this is a really, really busy time for her. So it might be that once I contact her that the timing isn't great, and it might take her a little while to get it to you. It also might not. She might be really organised and on top of it, but just if it is a little bit slow, it's probably because of Expo and how busy she is, because my timing hasn't been great in this regard and coinciding with that. So yes, just bear with me and bear with Deb, and hopefully you will get your charts in due course. So that's really it in terms of business. So I think I will move on and show you what I've been stitching the last few weeks. It is a little bit longer than usual since my last video, so I have quite a lot to show you because I have managed to steal some stitchy time, and I've been really enjoying my stitches, which has been great. So I have a few bits and pieces to show you. I don't have any fully finished pieces today, but I do have two finishes, and I'm so happy with both of them. The first finish is My Necessity by Heartstring Samplery. I'm stitching this one, or I have stitched this one as a gift for my hubby for our 25th wedding anniversary, which is later this year. And I really enjoyed the band sampler. I stitched it on 32 count Murano in silver grey, just by Swigart. And I stitched it using the dark, is it chocolate brown or black, but it's 3771, DMC 3771. And I love it. I really, really love it. I am so thrilled with this piece. I love monochromatic pieces. I still love those cafetières. I know I tell you this every time, and the filter coffee pots up here in this row. And I love the verse. So hopefully I will be struck by inspiration as to how to fully finish this in time for our anniversary later in the autumn. But I do have some time. I think it will just be framed hopefully by me, because I'm not going to send it out for framing, but hopefully I will find something that is an appropriate size. But I'm just really thrilled to have it finished. I started this one I think last June 2021, and my plan was just to stitch it a band at a time, really, and take my time and enjoy it, and I did, and it was really nice not to be panicked in this one, and just to be able to approach it in that sort of methodical way, and I'm really pleased to finally have it finished. So it is stitched on time. No, I've got to get it finished on time, so I have some time. It's not imminent, but I just need to not forget and then suddenly be panicking the week before the anniversary is due. So that is My Necessity by Heartstring Samplery, and I heartily recommend it. It's a beautiful chart and it's a lovely stitch. everything except this border, this band. I didn't like that one. Might as well just be honest. My second finish is What Remains by Blackbird Designs. This was the anniversary exclusive chart with traditional stitches, released in 2021. And then it has now been released in wider release since market in March, April time. So it should be able, you should be able to get hold of it. I know many of you were keen to get hold of it. And I did tell you at the time when I heard it was being released then on general release and not just the limited release that Traditional Stitches had. But I stitched this as part of, well, I was going to stitch it anyway, and then just at the time that I started it, there was a sale on Instagram for those who were stitching this in memory of their mother, and it was called A Mother's Love Sale, so that was really appropriate for me to be able to join because I was stitching this in memory of my mum. And here it is. Dun, dun, dun. Isn't it lovely? I'm really hoping that you can see this. The light, I think the light is okay up here, and I have the ring light on, but it looks a little bit wavy on the iPad screen, so I'm hoping that isn't going to translate across to you. But anyway, here is What Remains, and I'm really happy with this. This was my first ever Blackbird stitch, and it was just glorious, really. So I understand why everybody loves the Blackbird designs now. I'm probably not going to become a massive Blackbird stitcher, mainly because there's so many other things to stitch, but I will stitch Blackbird again, and I know that the charts are quality and the colour choices are perfect. So I use the called for flosses on this, and I used 35 count lamb's wool linen by Permin, and I'm very pleased with how it turned out. Again, I haven't really given any thought at all to what I'm going to do to finish this. A frame probably, in fact I would say most likely a frame, but I have no real ideas of what kind of framing I would like, so I'm going to just let that one sit for a little while. I'm just very happy to have it finished in honour of my mum, and I love the stitch, I love the sentiment, I just love every single thing about it, and I'm delighted that I was able to do it and to join in the sale with so many other wonderful people who are also stitching this as a memory to their mums as well. And then having a second finish, of course it was time to allow myself a new start. As you might remember, I was planning to start a Factor Love sampler this month. I'm only stitching the top part, not the alphabet. So this is a chart by Modern Folk Embroidery. It is gorgeous and would be absolutely fantastic stitched on a plain fabric or linen with a variegated floss. However, as you will remember, I was stitching this on a variegated fabric, a very variegated fabric. So this is 32 count Funfair. It feels like an even weave to me rather than a linen, and I love it. It's absolutely gorgeous to stitch on. It is by, forgive me, let me just check. Sorry, the fabric is by Crafty Leanie from Queensland, Australia. I'm just having a wee look at the tag that came with the fabric. And the fabric was gifted to me by Terry. So I did a series of videos to involve you in discussing and choosing what might get stitched on a piece of fabric such as this. And I chose DMC floss a solid floss rather than variegated, because all the variegation is already in the fabric here, so I just wanted a solid floss. This is DMC 3777, which I believe is called Terracotta, but it's a deep, deep reddish colour. And as I said, this is 32 count fabric called Funfair. You can see bits of green in this fabric, which they're not as obvious in the whole piece of fabric as it looks like they are here. So it's really interesting what happens when you cut a section of fabric off. But I am absolutely thrilled with this piece, and I'm thrilled with the choice of floss and how well it works and stands out against the fabric, but still allows you to see the beauty of the fabric behind it. You can still see that there are many colours, corals and pinks and yellows. So of course when I was choosing to cut off, oops, sorry for all the wobbling. When I was choosing to cut off a piece of the fabric, I could have gone up this direction where the fabric is a bit more pink and purple. There were areas higher up here on the fabric which were much more yellow, but I wanted a good bit of everything really, and so this was the section of fabric that I chose. So that is something else that you have to do if you're going to work on a very mottled mixed fabric. So I've never really done this before. I've always stitched on fairly plain fabric, so this has been a really interesting exercise, a lovely challenge, and I'm delighted with how it is coming out. As you can see from the design, I just have these little leaf bits to do underneath, and that's it. I don't think I'm going to put the borders around it or anything. I think I'll probably just leave it as it is, but I'll decide that once I see the leaves, oops, pardon me, the leaves in here. So it was nice. I took this piece away to the caravan, and only this piece, so I didn't have any choice but to work on it, and it was really nice to give it that attention. It got it off to a really good start, and I have since been trying to do it as my daily thread stitch, which is that each day that if I get a chance to stitch, then the first thing I stitch is one thread into this one length of thread into this pattern, into this design, before I pick up whichever else I have planned to work on that day. And that just helps this one to keep moving. So even though I gave it 4 days at the beginning of the month, it has been able to keep moving. And hopefully I will be able to continue that and maybe even get it finished before the end of the month. It might be, I might be tempting fate or being a bit hopeful, but there's not a lot to do, and one thread a day is well, it's manageable if you get to stitch every day. I don't, at the moment I'm not getting to stitch every day, but when I stitch I am making this my first port of call for just that one length of thread. It keeps it moving along a little bit at a time. So I hope that you like it. You were all part of the journey of this. It feels like a very community piece, this, to me, because the fabric was gifted to me. We discussed the fabric, we discussed thread choices, we discussed monochromatic pattern options, and you all chipped in ideas and suggestions, and so this really does feel like a lovely community piece of stitching to me, and that makes it all the more special as well. So hopefully when it is finished it will go above the wardrobes here. I have some nice flower, like fake flowers really, in a jug, and some quilts with all these kind of colourings in there, and I think it will go nicely up there and be appropriate for our room. So that is Modern Folk Embroidery, a Fractal Love sampler. I picked up a couple of whips as well the last week or so, and one of those is Hive Rules. Again, this was a gift to me, so thank you so much. And I really, really love this. I'm stitching it on a 25 count Vintage Sand by Swigart. So it has a, you can see that it has a kind of mottling in it. It's beautiful. The colours of the thread choices for this is called for DMC. The colours are just, they're just beautiful. Really, really beautiful. I love this. It's on 25 count 2/2, which is going to make it quite big, but I really enjoy that, and it makes just the X's quite big. I tried really hard to get the word like finished before I was recording, but I didn't. As you can see, I still had the needle in, so I didn't quite get there. But since the last time I showed it to you, I have stitched this Bee Sweet, and it's then going to say like honey, and this beautiful little honey jar. So this is a lovely pattern. I'm sure you've all seen it. And you could split this pattern up into a number of different sections and stitch them all individually if you liked, but I am hoping to do it all in one long piece. Yes, I'm hoping to do it all in one long piece, and that piece is all wrapped around the scroll frame down here. So that is my progress on Hive Rules by Primrose Cottage Designs. No, sorry, Primrose Cottage Stitches. There we go. I also found time this weekend to work on a family portrait, which is a modern folk embroidery chart. It was Jacob's Salve 2020. Oops, sorry. Let's see, it was the Salve for 2020 and it came out in monthly parts. I didn't join it then, but have been working on it since sometime last year, not making very fast progress, but I did pick it up this weekend and I managed to finish this section in here, and then I moved into the center and stitched this half here of this central motif. It was lots and lots of counting, but very worth it. I love this piece and I can't wait till it gets finished, but at the same time I'm not massively rushing it. There's no point in being unrealistic about my expectations. It does take a lot of time, and I'm just really enjoying the stitch. I have now completed January through April, which is the very top row. Coming into the middle means I didn't start May, which would be, sorry, May would be over here. And then June's, this is probably the July chart that I worked on, but it just felt kind of natural coming down into here in terms of counting. Just anyway, it was what felt natural on Saturday night and Sunday when I was working on it. So I'm really delighted to have a little bit more progress on this one. And one other whip that I was able to work on in this period is the Oh Holy Night Advent Calendar, but I've forgotten to bring it up here with me, and I'm not going to go downstairs and get it, or else I'll get interrupted by 4 million people. So I will insert a picture here to show you that I managed to get all of the little ornaments that are on the plastic canvas stitched and back stitched. So I think I had one more to stitch and then quite a number of them to back stitch, and I got them all done, so I'm very excited to have those completed. And then if you recall, I have the gridded part of the advent calendar on fabric stitched, so I have to go now to stitch the little stable scene that's at the top above the grid for the numbers, the 1 to 25 of the advent calendar. So that will be my next port of call for stitching, and I'm looking forward to starting that. Thank you all for the suggestions that you had about counteracting my laziness in case I don't stitch the blue borders that were around the advent calendar. I'll see when the time comes what I decide to do, but you all had great ideas about using backing fabrics and shaping and mats and things like that. So it isn't going to be a glass framed piece anyway, because it's got the little ornaments to hang on. So I'm not sure if it'll be framed and matted, but that was a good idea if it would be. But we'll see. Maybe I won't be lazy in the end. Maybe I'm just hoping to not have to do all that extra work because I'd just like it finished. But we'll see. Maybe when we get closer to it, I will actually be able to find it in me to stitch it as planned. So thank you for all your suggestions, and I really appreciate you all chipping in anyway. So thanks a million. So that is all my work on my whips. I was really pleased to get so much done. I have now just got 11 projects on my Sweet 16. So you can see I sticker over them when they're finished. So there's just 11. No, 11 is enough. So I don't really need to be starting new things this late in the year, but I do have some plans for at least 3 more starts before the end of the year. And one of those will be in August because I want to stitch it for a gift for a birthday that's towards the end of the year. And then I think I would like, well, I know I would like to start, but I think I will start a new sampler for Sampler September. And then I really want to start a Saviour's Praise at some point this year. I got it for Christmas last year, all kitted up, and had high hopes of starting it either for a New Year or at Easter, or anyway, it's still not started. So I would really like to get it started, but it's a biggie, and I think I've been trying to be sensible and finish some other things before I put another huge chart onto my Sweet 16, because a number of these have been maybe not huge to you, but huge to me. So I've been trying to get them finished, like My Necessity and What Remains. Those are big stitches to me. They're not small. They're probably really medium sized in the real world, but they're not small to me. So they took a long time, and you've seen the family portrait, that's huge as well. So I don't want to have too many huge things on the go, but at the same time we all like our variety. So if I had 3 more in, and maybe then a couple of smalls, you know, here and there throughout the year, and then try and keep these projects going, just trundling along with them, that would be nice. So that's my plans. It's kind of longer term plans with the Sweet 16. But in the immediate, one of those starts is, as I said, for a birthday later in the year, and it is from the Emma Congdon Cross Stitch for the Soul book, and it's this one called No Act of Kindness. Well, I'm calling it No Act of Kindness. It says no act of kindness, however small, is ever wasted. So I want to stitch this one for a friend. I love it. Looking forward to starting that hopefully next week. Fingers crossed. Look at the colours that are in there. Sorry for the glare on my bag, but you can still see the colours. Aren't they glorious? Glorious, glorious colours. I also would like to catch up a little bit on some of my other stitches, so I would like to pick up Alice in Wonderland again. It's been a little while since I picked that one up, and Glitter Village, because I've been studiously ignoring it. It's not quite true, I've just prioritised other things for now, but I would like, it is a beautiful chart, and I would like to stitch another little bit of it. So maybe I'll get some more of that done in August and be able to have something to show you next time I record. So those are kind of tentative plans for my stitching, and I think that's probably about it in terms of what I have to show you this week. One more little admin point just before I move on, because I've just spotted it in my notes and forgot to say it earlier, is that Sandra from Sydney has been watching, and she has been catching up on my past videos, and she has been commenting. So hello Sandra, It's nice to see you and nice to have you join us. The reason I'm mentioning you, Sandra, is that I'm not sure if you know that I have been replying to your comments. You left me another comment on a later video which suggested that maybe you think I'm not getting the comments that you've left on the early videos. Well, I do get them. I got them all because I saw them all coming through as you were dutifully watching number 1, number 2, number 3 and leaving me comments, and they were lovely comments. Thank you very much. So wherever the replies to your comments go to, you should hopefully see my responses, and I wanted to say it just in case you think I wasn't picking up on them or didn't get them, or indeed that I had ignored you. So I hadn't. I really appreciate that A, you came and looked and watched and joined the channel, and that B, you took the time to go back and watch the others. I hope that you've enjoyed them, and I hope that you will be able to find my comments and know that I have responded to you. Okay, so now it's time for the remaining questions that were submitted for the Q&A, and these ones are mainly stitching related and planning related. So I hope that you will enjoy the questions, and thank you to those of you who have sent them in. So first of all, Helen has asked if I would show a little bit more about my cross stitch planner, and I think what Helen is referring to is this little journal which I showed back on the video which I asked for Q&A submissions. I had shown this little diary which was gifted to me by a friend, and you can see it has been personalised. It has my name on it. So this is not specifically a stitching journal, but it is something that I use to plan and record in. So I'm very happy to show you a little bit more about it. I will tell you that it is by Papier. So there you go. It's just papier.com if you want to have a look online. And this one is a week to view. So you can see here there's a week to view, and it comes in a choice of different covers, and all of them can be personalized with the recipient's name on it. So this was a gift from my friend last year. We went on a little stitchy weekend and she left this in the bedroom for me. She had left us all a little gift, and it was a complete surprise and a complete luxury, because I probably wouldn't buy one of these for myself. They're not extortionate, but they are on the pricier side, so they are a lovely gift item, so or a treat for yourself. So anyway, I will show you a little bit of the inside of this. What I like about this is I liked the way that it's laid out. So at the beginning of the diary you have monthly views. Sorry, the light is going to wash this out now, but hopefully you can see enough. That's a little bit better. Oh, maybe. Is that it? Sorry. So you can see there's December's planner. This one actually started in December and then runs for the full year after, so it's kind of 13 months of a diary. So I use these monthly layouts to plan what I'm going to stitch each month. So, and I think this is what I had been talking about when I first showed it, which is why Helen, I think, has asked. So, you know, when I sit down and I plug in a project against each day that I know I can stitch, I will leave blank any days that I can't, that I already know that I can't stitch, and then I live in hope of being able to do the rest. You see, in July I planned nothing. What you're seeing is just coming through. You're only seeing that pen coming through because the light is so very bright off my ring light. It is actually really, really lovely quality paper, so please don't think that it's very thin rubbishy paper. It's just because the light is so bright on the ring light. So here are my plans for August, and the reality mightn't match this exactly, but I did start off according to plan, and this is what I do. So I make my plans on these monthly layouts, and I also note what my daily thread stitch project will be. Following them, so all of the months are grouped together at the front of this diary, and then following that there's a group of pages for each month. There's a blank lined page, and then this one with the 4 boxes on it, and let me see if I can show you one that's not filled in yet. There's September's. So can you see that this page is quartered into a to-do list? So sorry, this light is difficult. And then there's monthly goals, important dates, and a wish list. Now I have been able, give me a wee second, I'm just going to see if I can tilt the light slightly to improve things. I just wondered if I tilted the light away slightly, would it help us to see a bit better? There we go. So on the quarters of this page each month, I use this to do a little bit more detailed planning. So in the important dates, I will put in the dates that I hope to record a Flosstube. My wish list is exactly that. I will write down anything that I take a fancy to and would like. So for example, in December, I wanted a fat half yard of Belfast linen for my Saviour's Praise. And then I wanted one of the Stitching with the Housewives patterns, so in there I can write down as I'm watching Flosstube anything that I take a fancy to. The monthly goals, then you have monthly goals up here, and this to-do list. So on the to-do list side, I write in my stitch along commitments. So that was a La Finestra del Tempo, and then the Gentle Rain, and then Heartfelt. So those were the stitch alongs that I was doing back in February. And I wanted to make sure that I planned some stitching on those. And then this was everything else. Everything else I wanted to touch in February. So I used the monthly planner, and then I used this as well to plan my stitching. And then after you have all of these little pages, you've got your standard diary weeks. Okay, I'm not normally a sticker person, but my lovely friend Margaret gave me some stickers for Charlotte, and I stole some of them. Charlotte has lots and lots. Some of them are really pretty and they look nice in here. So I have stickers on occasional pages. So this section is the regular calendar, regular diary section really. And in here, this is where I write what I actually did. So the monthly view is my plans, and here is what I actually did. So in January, on Monday the 3rd of January, I stitched on Hello Pumpkin and the Gentle Rain. On the Tuesday I stitched Hello Pumpkin and I started What Remains. And then I will put in, finished stitching Hello Pumpkin. My daily thread that day was What Remains. So that is then the journal, a record of my actual stitching. At the back of this diary, there are there are about 16 pages or so that are blank, 4 lined, 4 squared, 4 blank, and 4 with a dot matrix on it. So for making your notes on. The only ones I've used so far are this one, and that's where I'm just making a record of my 2022 finishes. There are 33, which looks better than I thought, although lots of them are, lots of them are smalls. Anyway, there are about 12 or 16 pages available for you to make notes in. So this is a beautiful, beautiful diary. I think it costs about £25, but it is lovely quality. it is nice to have something that's personalised, either to give to your friend or to receive. And I have really enjoyed having it, and I knew when my friend gave it to me that I didn't want to just write in this my appointments and things I had to do every day. I wanted to use this diary for something really special that would be kept, which is why I made it my stitching journal for this year. I have used other less expensive journals in the past. They're just diaries and have the same sort of idea. So this one was 2021. I don't actually have one before 2021 because I wasn't really back into things then, but in 2021 this diary has actually got little tabs for each month, and it's got a monthly layout at the beginning of each month, and then it's followed by your regular diary pages where again I recorded what I actually stitched as opposed to what was planned. So this one I just got off Amazon. I think it was less than £10, maybe £8.99, £9.99, something like that. So so they're, you know, similar, but this one was a really lovely treat. So that is the planner. I hope that helps, Helen. If there's anything else you wanted to know more specifically, please do ask, in case I didn't cover it. But that is pretty much it. Helen, you also asked if I could do a tutorial for a notebook cover. So you're probably talking about something like this. This one was, I didn't make, this one was made for me, and it covers a regular A5 notebook or a diary. I have made several of these in the past, in my quilty sewing time. I'm not going to do a tutorial, and the reason I'm not going to do one is because there are lots of really good tutorials out there on blogs or on YouTube, and I will direct you to my friend Judith, who is a quilting teacher and who taught me how to make them, and she has a lovely covered notebook tutorial on her YouTube channel. So I will link that below. Her channel is Just Jude Designs, and she has a wonderful free tutorial there, and I really couldn't do it any better. I absolutely couldn't do it any better. She was properly set up for recording and viewing, and she is a teacher, so you won't get better in my opinion. And that is how I learned to make well, I actually went to one of her classes, but during lockdown and COVID, Judith started to put some of her teaching online, so I learned in a class, but that is how I learned, and it is the tutorial that I would refer to again if I were making my own notebook cover. And this is a great way to turn a very standard diary into your crafting journal, and making it exactly how you want it, with fabrics of your choice and totally to your taste. So I hope that you don't mind that I'm not going to do one, but time will get away from me, and as I said, I just couldn't do it better. So you should go and have a look at Just Jude Designs and her tutorial there. I will link that below. A few of you asked me questions that were related to the Flosstube channel. So Kristen asked, do you feel overwhelmed to stitch or complete your cross-stitch projects because of your Flosstube channel? That's a really good question. And I would say that there definitely is a danger that you could feel that way. I think what you've got in the channel, when you have the channel, it can provide motivation to stitch. I think that if you're not careful, that motivation can push over into pressure. And so yes, you could feel the pressure to stitch. So it's lovely in the one hand to have the motivation, because I'm going to see people in a fortnight's time and I want to have something to show you. So I want to stitch. That is motivating. But then if I let that press on me too hard, it just becomes pressure, and that would be actually demotivating. So I guess the trick is finding a balance, and that balance is going to be different for each one of us. But if you are thinking of it yourself and wondering if you had a channel, which way would you feel? I think it's a good place to start, is just to acknowledge your own limits and your own personality and the way that you react to pressure. Camera and Floss also touched on this when she said that she was thinking of starting a Flosstube channel, but worried that it could add extra pressure to a hobby that's for enjoyment. So I think both of those relate to the same thing, and I certainly think that if you are considering a Flosstube channel, that it's something to be aware of, that it could spill over and become a pressure. But I think if you're aware of it, you're able to mitigate against that, and I certainly haven't felt that it has been pressure. Very occasionally think, oh, I really want to have more done or whatever, but actually when I come on here and chat and engage with you and find a way for us to connect, so that it's not just me talking, telling you all the time, but offering you ways to answer questions or connect with me through various means. I find that that you are all actually very gracious, and don't expect that I have everything finished next week. I was laughing in one of the comments that I left on Sandra from Sydney when she was viewing the earlier my earlier videos, and I was saying that I need her to be gracious, that when she catches up with what's happening now, she doesn't expect me to have finished the things I said I would finish back when, in, you know, whatever, video number 6, and I said I would finish these things and didn't. Sorry, I'm wobbling again. But I have found that this is a gracious community, and it's an understanding community. You all know what it's like to have projects that you plan to stitch on, plan to finish, but don't actually get around to. So what I would say to Camera and Floss and to Kristen is don't worry about that overly, and just be conscious of it and try to eliminate it if you can, so that it isn't a pressure for you. If you are thinking of starting a channel, go for it. Share what you have. Share what you have as whips already. Share the things that you start, and work work on projects at a pace that suits you and your lifestyle and your ability. Some people are able to stitch so much that they have heaps to show at the end of just 1 week. Some people need a fortnight to have enough variety to show. And there are some Flosstubers out there who only show maybe 1 project at a time, but their channel becomes about them and their personality as much as it is about the stitching. So I know that we want to start with the stitching, but there are different ways of doing it, depending on you and your personality and your style. Maybe you only have a 20 minutes of a video every fortnight or every week or something, but it's still a means for you to engage. There are lots of ways to get lots of connection. There is no one single way. Do you have to think about the Flosstubers that you enjoy though? How much do they show? How much do they really stitch? Some people show a lot more haul than they actually ever show stitching, so it's about the enabling side of things. So I guess it's, what do you want to offer? And I think if you're going to feel pressured, then you need to think of a way to reduce that, because you don't want, as you said, Camera and Floss, you don't want something that's supposed to be a hobby becoming a pressure. So it's about keeping the perspective right, and this community doesn't expect too much of us. I think as people have gotten to know me, I feel that they understand when I don't get something done. We all have lives, we all have things that happen, we all have days that don't go to plan, so people are very gracious. So don't overstress on it, and don't let that be a reason why you don't start your own channel. Camera and Floss also was asking if I have any advice on not getting overwhelmed by projects. And so my advice is to find what works for you. Don't necessarily do what works for everybody else. So I see people out there who've got 80 whips and they're quite happy with that. Absolutely fine with that. I would melt under the pressure of 80 whips. So that is why I decided that I would have my Sweet 16, because after some trial and error, I figured that 16 was about the maximum projects I could have without my brain going into overdrive. And then I have a good variety in my projects that keeps me motivated, but that might not be what works for you. Maybe you like to be monogamous, and that's perfectly okay. And I think that you could do Flosstube as a monogamous stitcher. I really do. I think you could do Flosstube if you only want to have 4 whips on the go at one time. There isn't a hard and fast rule. I think that in terms of not becoming overwhelmed, you need to be self-aware, really, so knowing your own limits. Like I said, I know I get to about 16 projects, that's it. I could maybe push it a couple more, but that really would be pushing it. And I would be panicking over what's not being stitched rather than enjoying what is being stitched. If you are quite happy to have 80 whips on your shelf, then go for it, do it. It's whose business is it anyway? In terms of individual projects and not being overwhelmed by any one individual stitch, maybe you've got a big chart to work through, and you know, maybe it gets stalled. How do you not become overwhelmed by it? And I think my advice then is to eat the proverbial elephant. So how do you eat an elephant? And you do it one bite at a time. So, you know, if you're a planner, you might like to sit down and write out all of the like sections of the design that you might be able to tackle them section by section. You might say, well, I'm going to give it 3 days every month to do it. I think one of the biggest things about as to how not to be overwhelmed by an individual project is not to set an unrealistic goal. So I have a family portrait, which you saw is a really big piece. It was done as a yearly sale, month by month. It's huge. I can't achieve that in 12 months because of all the other stitching that I want to do. So I'm happy that it's not going to be on my wall within 12 months. So the thing for me to do is be realistic about that and say, well, I will do that. I'd like to touch on it 1 weekend a month, or something like that. And it's just not to be too hard on yourself. If this is your hobby and this is something that you want to enjoy, then enjoy it. Find the way to stitch it, to approach it that makes it enjoyable. If that is to sit down and crack on and be monogamous about it and not get distracted by 14 ornaments and 3 other sales that are going on, then just be monogamous, focus and do it. And if that's what motivates you, then do that. If, however, that's just too much and you don't want to be fully focused on only this one thing, but you want to play with lots of toys at once, then do that too. You know, I cannot stress enough that this is, for most of us, meant to be a hobby, a pleasure, a way of de-stressing and relaxing from other pressures in our lives. So don't let it become another pressure. So sorry, I don't mean to get preachy. I just really want to help you not be stressed out by something that's meant to be fun. Some of you have asked or mentioned that I do other crafts, or asked what those other crafty things are. So Deanna wanted to know what other crafty things I do. Well, I do quilt. I know that I talk about it occasionally on here and haven't done for quite some time, but I do quilt. If I can just show you up there are piles of quilts, you see? Proof, because you haven't seen much other proof of it. So I do quilt when I get time and space available. It's not happening much at the moment. I like to hand embroider. I'm not massively skilled, but I have been learning. Again, it was something else I picked up with a little bit more focus during lockdown. and I really enjoyed it, and it kind of, the embroidery led me back to cross stitch actually. I have tried my hand at some card making and soap making, some melt and pour soaps, which was fun. What else have I tried? I tried picture framing many years ago. Wish I'd kept it up, because now of course it would be really handy. But with all of these things, with card making and the framing and the soap making, I think part of the problem was that I just wasn't committed enough to buy the really good equipment. And with those things, I think that that's what you needed, and I wasn't all the way in it, if you like, and wasn't really prepared to spend the money for that. But I was enjoying just little hobbies. You know, I made a few cards and sent them to my friends, and I have made some cross stitch cards in the past too. Really enjoyed soap making. I went with a friend to a class one morning, and we learned how to make little melt and pour soaps, but it was just really nice messing about with different scents and things, fragrances. I also do crochet and I can knit, but I don't enjoy knitting so much anymore, and I have quite a few crochet whips which I would like to bring out again at some point, and maybe I will share them with you. I don't think I've shared any of my crochet really on here very much, if at all, but maybe I'll be able to show you some, maybe later in the winter. I have tried different crafts, and I have favourites. I already told you about me and favourites, didn't I? So Donette asked actually if I had a favourite craft. She said she knows I do other things. I think cross stitch is currently my favourite. Quilting was a big favourite for a long time. In fact, Sew Me Sarah as a name, it was actually the name of my blog, which I created when I started quilting. And the reason for the name Sew Me Sarah is that I knew I had dabbled with some other things like card making and soap making in order to try and find a crafty outlet that I enjoyed, but I came back to stitching and sewing again, and those were so me. You know, I was trying to find something that was me, and the card making was fun and it was nice, and the soap making was fun and it was nice, but it didn't meet that crafty expectation or desire in me that that quilting did when I was learning quilting, and that cross stitch and embroidery do. So those cross stitch, quilting, embroidery and crochet are my favourites, if you like. Knitting is a bit lower down on the list, although I'll always be grateful to knitting, pardon me, because it was my entry point into needlecrafts many years ago. And if you want to hear a little bit more about that, go back to my very first video where I talk about that. And yeah, those are the things that I've tried. I would like to try some other, I would love to try basket weaving. Don't really know why. Well, I love baskets, so, but I always fancy that it would be nice to actually make your own. I would love to do some fused glass, but I'm not particularly good at drawing, or I'm not terribly artistic perhaps myself, which is why following a cross stitch pattern or embroidery pattern, those things work well for me, because I don't draw very well myself. I could do a few little things, but nothing terribly interesting. So I worry that anyway, that fused glass might require a little bit more artistic ability than I have, but it would be fun to try. And there is also a lady who does some classes on making like hand creams and face creams and those kinds of things, and I'd love to go along to one of her classes at some point. I'm not really a lotions and potions person, but her products are beautiful, and I think it'd be fun to have a class. It's not something I would imagine ever picking up as a hobby, just something that I'd like to go and do for a day. So I think macrame, there are other things that if I had opportunity and money, I would like the opportunity to try out, but I think I have probably found my loves, my quilting and cross stitch and embroidery and crochet. So I don't know, watch this space, maybe something else will come, but actually I think I've got enough to be getting on enough to be getting on with. Where would I put the materials for anything else in this house? I don't know. Donette has asked, how did I learn to cross stitch? So I did mention that back in video number 1 as well. I had wanted to cross stitch for a little while. When I was a teenager, I saw some cross stitch kits. That was really all there was around here at that stage. And actually for my 18th birthday, my mum asked me what I wanted, and I said, oh, I'd like a cross stitch kit, please. So she got me a little one from a store in Belfast, and I taught myself from the instructions in the DMC kit, and that's it really. The rest is history. After that, I had magazine subscription, and I bought some other little kits like Country Companion. The first one that I had was it was a Country Companions kit, and then I bought another Country Companions that had a post box and a hedgehog in it, and then I think I joined was it Readers Union here in the UK? I had like a craft club, and you know they sent you a monthly magazine and you had to order something from it every month. That was your commitment or something like that. So that was how I got started, but I actually taught myself just from the kit, and learned to count and learned to make the X's, and then I just kind of learned some shortcuts myself, and now realise that those are what everybody was doing, but I'd worked them out, you know. So yeah, that's how I learned to cross stitch. Janet said that she enjoyed seeing some of the cross stitches that I had previously made, and would like to see more of those. So the reason you haven't seen more of them, Janet, is because I think I've exhausted my supply. I did go around my house at the time when I started to show previous makes, and I made a list of everything, and I hoped, I think I have shown them all. I don't have that many, unfortunately, because I started to cross stitch when I was 18, and then I stitched probably for about 8 years. I stitched little bits, you know, while I was studying, not obsessively like I do now, but little bits here and there. I don't have lots. I didn't have lots, but what I did have, I probably got rid of some, which of course is heartbreaking now, but you think you've grown out of a craft, and you have to make some decisions, and you have to give some things up. And so I did give away a number of pieces, or put them in charity shops or something. I know, how awful, but but anyway, I don't actually have very many more to show you, but I did find one that I hadn't shown you yet, and I found it in Andrew, who's my son. I found it in his memory box, and it is his baby Afghan. So when I was pregnant, I stitched this baby Afghan, and I'm sure that a number of you have stitched something similar. So I think, if I can show you, I think this is probably, well, it will all be DMC. It's probably like 4 strands at a time, and it is just pretty much your standard alphabet, little animals. Sorry, it needs a press, but I just didn't have time. So I'm really thrilled that I still have this, that I didn't give it away. It used to sit over the rocking chair that was in his bedroom when he was a baby. And I can't quite believe I had the patience to do this when I was pregnant, because during my pregnancies I didn't have the patience for very much. Yeah, hormonally, patience left me at that time. But anyway, that is Andrew's baby Afghan, and I think I still probably have the pattern for that one somewhere. Maybe if I find it, I could share it if somebody else would like to stitch it. I must have stitched this in hand, Even way back then I wouldn't have put that in a hoop. Anyway, it was nice to bring it out and have a look at it again and just remember how much work I put into it. So that is the baby Afghan. I think that probably really is all of the cross stitching that I have to show you. If I find any more on my travels or in the roof space at certain times, I will of course share it. There are some pieces I do wish I had to be able to share. I wish I had that very first piece that I cross stitched. It was Country Companions, and I think it was I've said this before, I'm pretty sure it was a rabbit sitting at a breakfast table eating an egg, a boiled egg. But I think there was a chick's head coming out of the egg, something like that. So there are other pieces that it would just be fun to have and have kept them as part of my journey, but hey ho, that's the way it goes. So, but thank you for being interested, Janet, and thank you for asking to see more. Darlene Dion asked how long I've been stitching, so a very long time, since I was 18. That makes it 30 years. But there was a big gap. As I said, I stitched for about 8 years. I probably stopped somewhere around 2002. I think when Andrew was a toddler, I thought it was best not to have the needles and the scissors and things lying about. They were too handy for him, and it kind of got put away, and life just was really busy, so it didn't get picked up again. And very occasionally I would have cross-stitched a card, a topper, or a little ornament or something like that in between times. Around about 2009, I think I picked up and stitched another couple of small pieces. One of them was a band sampler that I showed you before, and so I had a little flurry of interest back then, and I tried to chart some things myself. I wouldn't exactly go as far as to say designing, but tried to chart myself using motifs from various books and maybe adapting some band samplers and things like that. So I had a few pieces that I stitched around that time, around 2009, 2010 perhaps. And then a few years later I really got into quilting, and I became obsessed about quilting and learning to use my sewing machine and sewing that way. So part of the problem with my cross stitch at that time was I didn't really know how to use it in my home, and I didn't want to have lots of framed pieces hanging around, and I didn't really know what else to do. So aside from a few Christmas decorations which I had and loved, and you can bring them out every year and then they go away, I didn't know how to use the cross stitch. And now I think that's one of the things that is appealing to me about having come back to cross stitch, is that people are doing things much more creatively in terms of finishing. And I'm not talking about very fancy finishing, but I'm talking about, it's not all just framed and hanging on the wall. So some of it's in a tiered tray or in little dough bowl cushion displays, or so that is how to use the cross stitch in your home. And that is one of the things that makes it then, you know, it's an encouragement to stitch the things. So I have enjoyed that, and that has been what's made the difference. And as I said, I came back to cross stitch through the time of lockdowns and COVID. I came across some embroidery sal on YouTube, and sort of via that found that Kimberly Jolly had via checking that via checking that YouTube channel out, I realised there was more crafting on YouTube. I hadn't really bothered with YouTube much before, and I realised then that Fat Quarter Shop had their quilting channel, and then I discovered they had a cross stitch channel, and so I did one of their cross stitch charts as a gift from some friends. and really it just exploded after that. I realised that Flosstube didn't belong to Fat Quarter Shop, and sorry, I'm hearing noises. Flosstube didn't belong to Fat Quarter Shop, that in fact Flosstube was a whole community. And of course, you know, I fell well down that rabbit hole and eventually joined you all in it. So yeah, so that's, it's been a long time that I've been stitching, but with a few breaks in between. Darlene also asks, are there other stitchers who live nearby? And the answer to that was no, I don't know anybody who stitched until I posted my first Flosstube video. And then a friend who, she was a mum at the school gates with me when Andrew was at school, and her name is Margaret, and she lives over the hill, around the corner and over the hill, like 5 minutes away. And as I said, we knew each other well from being school gate mums. And it turns out that Margaret is a cross stitcher, and I didn't know, and a quilter, and I didn't know. And she just came upon my first Flosstube video by chance and said, hello, I'm here, and I do too. So we have had some stitching afternoons, and that has been really nice to have someone else close by who stitches. I have other friends in the quilting community, and my friend Noreen, who won the giveaway earlier. Noreen is a good friend, and there's a small group of us who meet up occasionally for some crafty chat and a cup of tea and a piece of cake usually. And Noreen has become very interested in the cross stitch too, and I think I might be partly responsible for that. Sorry, Noreen. But it's very nice to have some other real life folk to be able to chat to, because there's not really that many. I don't know that many, Darlene. Darlene, you also asked, does Charlotte have siblings? And I knew when I was doing the last video, I knew someone had asked this question, but it wasn't on the list that I had prepared for that video. And then I began to doubt myself, but it's on the list of your questions that you wanted to know. Does Charlotte have siblings? So just dipping back into family again, yes, Charlotte does. Charlotte has Andrew, her brother, who is almost 21, and he is studying physics at Durham University. So here's a picture of big brother and little sister together, and yeah, she has him bossed about as well as the rest of us. So there you go. I'm sorry that I missed that one in my family Q&A, Darlene, but there you go. There's Charlotte and Andrew for you. Camping Stitcher has asked me, she said that I have mentioned that I don't stitch Halloween, and she asked me why not. So any of you who've watched recently will know that I have stitched now one Halloween piece, and it has been gifted. It's not for me, but I don't normally stitch Halloween pieces, and the reason for that is because I really don't celebrate Halloween at all. Halloween has not traditionally been the huge event here in Northern Ireland that it is, say for example, in the States. When I was growing up, Halloween was very much focused on the one day. There was no event, there was no lead up or weeks or anything else. There was one day. You might have gone what we called Halloween rhyming, and you went and knocked on your neighbour's doors. You went and knocked on a neighbour's door, and there was a little rhyme that you could say. There were no pumpkins. You didn't get pumpkins here back in the 70s, really. We had turnips. So the hardy Northern Ireland parent would have carved out chiselled out, I would say, a purple turnip with a jack-o'-lantern type face for Halloween for the children. People didn't decorate their house really in any way at all, other than having the purple turnip perhaps sat on the doorstep, maybe. Trick-or-treating was not a thing. It just wasn't. I didn't grow up with it, and I didn't particularly like it. I didn't particularly like what there was of it. I've never liked scary things, so that was never going to be something I would gravitate towards. It has grown. Trick-or-treating is now a thing, decorating is now a thing, costume parties are now a much bigger event than, I mean, when I was little, if there was a costume party, you wore a false face, which was just a plastic mask, you know, like a witch's face, you know, with elastic around the back, and a bin bag, a black bin bag was your witch's costume. That was about the height of all that was required to have a Halloween event. It is, as I said, it is now a much bigger thing, but it has just never struck me, and actually I quite dislike it. Sorry, folks. I dislike it. I don't, I think it's because of the scary stuff. It just doesn't sit comfortable with me. I don't find it fun to have scary things. And I'm not a complete miser and Scrooge about it. So I still give the kids sweets when they come to the door for trick-or-treating. But I have to say, I find it very disturbing to open the door to little kids who are dressed in like a blood-spattered nurse's costume, or have, you know, a hatchet in their head or something. I mean, the little ones who are dressed as pumpkins and wolves, and, you know, that doesn't bother me so much. But it's the seriously gruesomeness of smaller children who are still small children at 8, 9, 10. It just disturbs me. So it doesn't sit well with me, and I have no real vested interest in it, and it's not something, as I said, that I grew up with as tradition. So I'm just not really bothered by it. But I do see the appeal of the Halloween stitching, because there's a lot of it is quite cute. So I do see that, and you know, each to their own. So, but anyway, that's my reason for not stitching Halloween. Julie Dodd has asked, how did I learn to do finishing? And the truth is, I am still learning. I don't really know an awful lot about finishing. What I have finished inspired by people like Priscilla Blaine at Stitching with the Housewives, or I've watched a few of Vonna Pfeiffer's tutorials. I really want to watch more, actually, to see if I can learn more. Because Vonna has been so generous with her time and her tutorials. A lot of what I do with my finishing comes from my experience with patchwork, so maybe making a piece of stitching into a pillow or into a wall hanging. That comes from my sewing experience, just to use the cross stitch piece in that, or the embroidery piece in that wall hanging, or whatever it might happen to be. Lacing a piece is something that I learned to do, just inspired by other people. Here it's Flosstube mainly that has shown me how to do finishing, and YouTube tutorials have shown me how to do that, and I'm not afraid to give something a go, as long as I haven't spent 4 years cross-stitching it. So I enjoy trying to do some new things. You will, if you've been on this channel, you've seen some of my finishes. They're not as fancy perhaps as some others might be. I don't have as many extra little bits and pieces on it, mainly because it's not my style, and the other reason is because actually it's quite hard to come by. We don't have stores here that sell that kind of thing just as readily as it seems to be available in the States, for example. So yes, maybe if I had more of it to hand, I might floof away. But generally speaking, my style is not to be too floofy or fussy, so I'll add a little bit of ribbon or lace or something else, and that's just the style that I enjoy, and it also makes it quite manageable. It's easier to do. So I guess it's a little bit of skills that I had, but a lot of Flosstube inspiration. So there's lots out there, so do look for it, and it's really good stuff too. Bridget is asking about shopping, and so is Jean Mansfield and Libby. So the last set of questions here in the Q&A are about shopping. So Bridget asks, do I have a needlework or fabric shop close by to buy supplies? And if so, could I give details? I think possibly Bridget lives in Northern Ireland or Ireland and is wondering where I go, so she might be able to go too. I wish I had a good answer for you, Bridget, but I don't. There is no needlework store in Northern Ireland that I know of that sells cross stitch in the way that you guys in the States would have a local needlework shop. We just simply do not have it. There's a big store here called Hobbycraft. It's a big chain store, sells lots of different supplies for hobbies and crafts, as the name would suggest. And you can buy DMC there. No fancy floss or anything like that, just DMC. And they sell some kit, but that's it. You know, there's not the lovely fabric choices or anything like that. So I know in England there are some stores, but here in Northern Ireland we don't have anything like that at all, unless I'm missing it. And if you know that there is something, please tell me. So Bridget, no, I don't have somewhere. There are fabric stores, a few fabric shops where you can buy like quilting fabrics, and some of those are not too far from me. There's a place called Windmill Fabrics in Saintfield, and there is a very small place, actually about 5 minutes from my house, and it's called Loving Stitching, or Love Patchwork and Quilt, no, Loving Stitching or something like that. Anyway, the problem that I have with that little place, even though it's so very close to me, is that it's never really open at the right time. So the lady who owns it goes and collects her children from school at the time when I would want to be going to the shop. And that kind of thing. And it's a small place and small selection in it. So I rely mostly on online shopping, it has to be said. And it is a shame. And like Jean, who says, you know, am I able to buy my quilting fabrics from a supplier, a shop or a show or somewhere else, or do I have to depend on online shops? So Jean misses, she misses being able to see fabric in the flesh, as it were, and I miss that too. But I have become quite accustomed to buying my quilting fabric online from all sorts of places, simply because it's what I had to do, because even the shops that were here that I could go to didn't have like the new lines of moda. They wouldn't have carried Laurie Holt or Bonnie and Camille or Fig Tree or those newer lines. They were carrying more traditional lines of fabric, and I just wanted something different, so I learned to shop for it online. Unfortunately, a number of the online shops that I used most frequently have actually now ceased trading or have changed tack. So one of them is still a fantastic online shop, but they are focused very differently now on a specific style, on embroidery, on quilt kits, mostly on kits. So where before they had a fabric store that you could go online and purchase from fabrics, still a phenomenal store, but not the same store, not selling the same things. So now I will shop. I have quite a big stash, and I've slowed down in my quilting, so I don't buy as much as I used to. So I haven't done a lot of shopping since those shops closed down. But if you are in the UK and are interested, I could highly recommend Just So Now, and I will link all of these down below. Just So Now is a Northern Ireland store. She lives right on the border of Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland, or Ireland, and she can post on each side of the border. So her postal rates are very favourable, and she has a lovely selection of fabrics. I thought I brought them up, but I don't see them. I've left them downstairs, folks, sorry. I brought a lovely selection of ginghams to help with some cross-stitch finishes, actually. The lady who runs that store is called Eleanor. She's really helpful, really nice. You can follow her also on Instagram. And she does have a great sale section, and I find that when I'm purchasing some of those quilting fabrics as finishing fabrics for cross stitch, I don't need the whole collection to go in a quilt. So I, you know, one print or two prints is enough. And actually that the sale section of her store is quite a good way to get a piece, a single fat quarter, for example, of something to finish off your cross stitch piece. But she also has a lovely range of the full, you know, full range of lots of new fabric lines for quilting. I also will shop at at So Hot UK and Plush Addict, just to name a few. If I can think of some other shops, the Homemakery is another one, and I think the Homemakery sells a little bit of cross stitch fabric, although I've never ordered any from them. But if I can think of a few of the other online stores that I have used, I will link them below in case you don't know them and are interested. But as I say, the 2 or 3 main stores that I used to use when I was buying quite a bit of quilting fabric are no longer selling, so yeah, so it's not the same as it used to be for me either. The final question comes from Libby, and Libby asks, do you buy patterns and fabric for stash, or do you buy things when you know you will stitch them? Ha ha ha. So yes, Libby, I do buy patterns sometimes for stash. Now, I'm not a collector, and I'm never going to be, because I don't have the capacity really for storing all of those patterns forever and ever. So I will stitch something, and then I hope maybe to be able to share the patterns with folks when I'm finished, to pass them along. Some of them I will keep if I think I would ever stitch it again. But I do buy things. I don't show haul a lot because I don't buy lots. I show haul occasionally if I have something, but I do have plenty of patterns that are unstitched, so I don't just have the ones that are in my whip bags. I do have a collection of patterns that are not stitched yet, and I have some that are kitted up. So I'm just as tempted as the next person every time I see a new release. I'm trying to be really good about it and not let it get out of hand. I think sometimes when I'm not sewing, when I'm not stitching fast, I want to purchase, because it's like it's a way of having a new thing without actually doing any stitching. If that makes sense at all. I think that's why sometimes I buy, is because I haven't been able to get a new start, so I'll buy a new thing instead. So I do have a healthy collection of patterns. It's not as healthy as most people's, let's say, but I do have a healthy collection. I could probably happily stitch for the next 5 or 10 years. Well, 5 years anyway, from patterns. I would probably just need to buy some supplies to support that. And Libby asks, how do I keep track of the patterns that I like and intend to buy or stitch in the future? Well, I have my little wish list box in my diary, and I write things down there as I see them, and then I transfer those onto a wish list that I have on a spreadsheet, actually. I have a spreadsheet that keeps track of all of my charts. This is so that I don't duplicate or double buy, and so that because I will record in there when I start or finish something as well on the spreadsheet. So I have a record there, and one of the tabs on the spreadsheet is a wish list tab, so I'm able to put things there. And it is interesting that if I use the wish list instead of just immediately going online and purchasing, but if I use the wish list, quite often those things don't feel quite so important or so urgent a purchase in 3 or 4 weeks time when I look at them again. So that, yeah, I should learn from that really, shouldn't I? Put them all on the wish list and then review them every now and again and see which ones I really want to buy, that I really think I will get around to stitching. I would like to think that I will get around to stitching everything that I have. I guess we all think that. But I really would like to try not to purchase too much. yeah, nobody here is going to appreciate them after I'm gone, so I don't need to leave them behind for someone. But I guess we all just get a little bit excited about the latest new thing, and yeah, I'm as susceptible to that as the next person. So there you go. There you have all the answers to the questions, all the questions you ever wanted to know about my stitching. I want to thank you all for submitting questions for this video, and obviously for the last one on sort of more personal life and family related issues. It was fun seeing what it was that you wanted to know and then figuring out how I was going to answer it. And I hope that you enjoyed. I hope that you enjoyed the sessions. Please feel free to ask at any time if you have questions about something that I'm showing, or I maybe haven't explained it in full, or maybe it's something that I haven't explained because I've explained it somewhere in the past, but maybe you didn't see that video in the past. Please do just ask. I am very happy to address questions as and when they come up as well. So this is a community where we interact with each other, and that is how the relationships are built, and that is how we learn. And I have found certainly that when I have questions, other Flosstubers are very happy to help, and I would like to be able to help anyone who would like to have answers as well. So please ask as and when you feel so inclined. I'm hoping that, well, really, I'm just hoping to survive the next couple of weeks, the last couple of weeks of the school holidays, and get back into a more normal routine with the quieter, less chaotic mornings, with time to concentrate on the work I'm supposed to be doing for work, which would in turn then hopefully free me up for a little bit more sewing in the evening, which isn't always possible just right at the minute. So those are my hopes and wishes for the next few weeks. I hope that you will have a lovely time in the next couple of weeks and enjoy the end of summer, or maybe it's the end of winter where you are and you're going to come into spring soon. Whatever you're doing, I really do hope that you are healthy and well. I hope that you will stay well and that you will stitch happy, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye.